A very good morning and welcome all of you to the daily news analysis for 10th of February 2025. So in today's news analysis, we are going to see the news around centrally sponsored schemes. Then India's civil nuclear liability law. India is set to revise the civil nuclear liability law to suit the convenience of US and France as the Prime Minister Modi heads towards the United States of America on his tour. So to suit the convenience of US and US firms like Westinghouse nuclear plant construction company, India is going to dilute its civil nuclear liability law as per this news article. Then we are going to talk about how Tamil Nadu is being devoid of or is not being released the funds for PM SHRI scheme that is meant for school education for primary school till 12th standard schools, right? Then teacher education, etc. Why Tamil Nadu earlier opted out of this PM SHRI scheme? Because of the reason that it talks about national education policy and three language formula. As you all know that the South Indian states have got earlier also we have had movements around not adopting the English or Hindi as a language. Now that this National Education Policy 2020 is sought to be implemented through this scheme PM SHRI. Okay, so Tamil Nadu earlier in 2021, 2018, ever since the scheme was launched, Tamil Nadu said that we are not going to implement three language formula. Now when the funds have not been released, Tamil Nadu's Chief Minister says that central government, Union Ministry of Education is not releasing the funds for them. We'll see more on it, how centrally sponsored schemes are used to coercion, how centrally sponsored schemes are used to victimize non-ruling party states, non-central ruling party state like BJP. Okay, if BJP is ruling at the center and there are other political parties at the state level, sometimes this kind of a victimization happens. And Tamil Nadu is also wrong insofar as non-implementation of the provisions of national education policy like three language formula are concerned. So let's begin. Then there is more on the urban news, urban budgetary allocations, how the urban budgetary allocation overall has been cut by the central ministry this time. We see a new pattern that instead of curtailing the outlay, instead of cutting the outlay, what the government is doing is government is deliberately not spending money. Okay, budgetary outlays are being given, but not spending money doesn't catch as much of a negative limelight, media light as cutting the budgetary outlay, right? So you got my point. Money is allocated, but because of rule of lapse, that on 31st March 2025, the money that is not spent on the ministry, urban ministry schemes will go back to the Consolidated Fund of India. We don't pay much attention to the money not spent as much as we pay to money not actually allocated. So this is the new pattern we see. Smart Cities Mission, Swachh Bharat Mission, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana haven't been allocated the funds that they were sought to, that they were required to in order to implement the programs to their logical conclusion. So we'll see more on this news article also. As we are decoding the budget along with the Hindu newspaper or Indian Express, our job is not over in one day. 1st of February, budget gone and we are also happy. Okay, no. As a UPSC aspirant, we are supposed to read budget every day. Anything that appears with regard to the budget, we are covering on a day-to-day basis. So this way you are in a way covering some aspect of economic survey also and holistic coverage of budget along with the Hindu newspaper or Indian Express. Right, now let's begin. These are the news articles we are going to deal one by one. PDF you can download from the Telegram channel. I hope audio, video, everything is working fine. Now, transfer of PM SHRI funds punishing students. Non-transfer rather is punishing students here. The salaries of teachers have been stopped. The students are not getting, the students under Right to Education Act, 25% EWS, economically weaker section category students, their share of fee to the private schools is not being released. And now the Tamil Nadu government, which earlier did not implement PM SHRI scheme because they said that we don't want to implement three language formula. South Indian states, we have seen the movements in the South Indian states like Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, that they don't want to implement Hindi. Okay, so this jingoism, as we call it, okay, that we won't implement any other language, we won't implement Hindi. This kind of a politics was earlier played by the CM of Tamil Nadu. Now when the center did not release the funds for the previous year, Tamil Nadu is crying hawks. Tamil Nadu is crying now that why the funds have not been allocated. Let's talk more about PM SHRI scheme. It is a centrally sponsored scheme. It's a part of the overall program that the government is implementing by subsuming 3 programs. Okay, we are going to talk about it. Now they say that center is not releasing the funds of their share. Let me just change the color of the pen quickly. Tamil Nadu government committed in March last year, March 2024, that they will implement all the aspects of Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan. Okay, so Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan is an overarching umbrella program under which 3 more programs like teacher education, then PM SHRI, then Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, all these programs have been subsumed under it, right? Now, since they are going to implement the aspects of the scheme from this year onwards, how Tamil Nadu is now expecting the funds to be released for the previous year in which they did not implement, right? Nonetheless, central government could have lived up to the spirit of cooperative federalism and could have released the funds. But we see in Telangana, in this West Bengal also, that Trinamool Congress and this Tamil Nadu also, they will implement their own regional state-oriented schemes, state carved-out schemes, but not implement the schemes like PM SHRI Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan, which seek to achieve sustainable development goals related to education. Now, the scheme is 60-40 ratio, centrally sponsored scheme, where central government is going to bear 60% of the expenditure and state government is expected to bear 40%. Now, because of this problem, state government is not getting 500 odd crore rupees with which it can pay the salaries and outstanding dues to the private schools. Okay, now see here, what is in it for our purpose. The factual details, prelims oriented details are this: Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan has been subsumed under it. Okay, Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan. Okay, then teacher education. We all know that B.Ed has been made compulsory for government teachers or school teachers to be eligible for being a school teacher. So teacher education was lagging behind in our country. We had a number of private schools, etc. But even RTE, right to education, was implemented. But teacher education was lagging behind. Then Madhyamik Shiksha, okay, intermediary education. So those things have been focused upon alongside the 6 to 14 years, the overall goal of Right to Education Act to educate all the children in the age group of 6 to 14 years. Now we are focusing on primary education, then intermediary education, then teacher education also. Okay, so this was the umbrella program which government seeks to implement through Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan, of which one of the components is PM SHRI. Okay, what is the full form of PM SHRI here? PM Schooling for Rising India, PM Schools for Rising India. Okay, all the government schools, municipality schools would be revamped under this scheme. Revamping as in wherever infrastructure is lacking. RTE says that there should be provision for a ramp in every school for disabled children also to go. There should be separate toilets for the girl children, so as to increase the gross enrollment ratio of girl child in the age group of 6 to 14 years, to reduce the dropout ratio. Okay, students, they enroll and there are problems with midday meal scheme, etc. That midday meal scheme, there is attendance till first half of the day. After the lunch is served, students, they go back to their homes. Okay, so those kind of things it seeks to bridge. The allocation for 5 years till 2026 was approximately 26,000 crore rupees. Now this is the problem. Politicization of schemes has always been the norm when it comes to centrally sponsored schemes. So you can highlight this example of PM SHRI when it comes to center state disputes around central sector, around centrally sponsored schemes. What are centrally sponsored schemes? Please highlight, please give answer in the comment section. Now I ask you one more question. As per the latest surveys, what is the gross enrollment ratio at the school level, at the primary level, at the intermediary level, then college level, for higher education also? Please answer these small questions and make notes out of these. Make a note of these questions and their answers for your own better answer writing skills and for your own preparation for prelims also, right? These are very small questions, but if you prepare for these type of questions on a daily basis, you will see that you will remember these things like the back of your hand, right? 60% allotment by center and 40%. Yes, I'm asking about gross enrollment ratio and expect each one of you to answer the same, guys, right? Now, see here, practice MCQ, this is there. My another question to you is this Samagra Siksha Abhiyan, okay, which all three programs we have just talked about, what all three programs does it merge? All right. So this is there. Now coming here, plan to amend nuclear liability law, civil nuclear liability law. I'll tell you about very briefly about this overall issue, how it happened. In 2008, America, the great America under George W. Bush, gave the civil nuclear waiver to India. What do we mean by civil nuclear waiver? It means that earlier that India which had tested for Pokhran 2 in 1998, 1999, right? Pokhran 1 during Indira Gandhi era, we were facing the sanctions as the US, the Russia of today or the Iran of today faces. We were bleeding, we were made to bleed by the countries like US, Canada, entire European Union, because we mustered the courage under Atal Bihari Vajpayee to test the nuclear weapons, the second test that we had conducted, okay, because of which, I mean, we violated the norms, or you can say that even till this day we are a non-signatory to Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, okay, CTBT, Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. Now USA from 1998, 1999 till 2007-8 was adopting, you can say, a policy of boycott towards India, policy of nuclear exclusion, or you can say giving the third grade treatment to India, because they wanted us to sign civil nuclear liability law, which means that you will comply with all the aspects of civil nuclear liability law. I mean, this Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty and Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, which means that India as a responsible nuclear power will not share the technical know-how gained by India since the times of Homi Bhabha to other countries like, you can say, Indonesia, its neighboring countries like Bangladesh. So this Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty's objective is that the countries like India, which already have nuclear prowess, nuclear knowledge of how to make nuclear weapons out of uranium-235, etc., okay, isotopes, etc., so they should not share this knowledge with other countries, so that proliferation of nuclear weapons should not happen. But what happened? In 2007-8, looking at India's rising power, economic power under Dr. Manmohan Singh, US gave us a waiver, which is colloquially called as civil nuclear law waiver. That means we did not sign any such treaty which was imposed upon us. Still, USA gave us a waiver. Okay, we are giving India this waiver because India is a responsible power, right? Because India is a responsible power, so India is being given a waiver from signing the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, from signing Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, which means that India will not conduct any further tests. We did not sign it because the countries like USA, which were pressurizing India, they themselves did not sign it, right? So how could you impose something upon India which you haven't yourself signed? Nonetheless, when you rise economically, it is applicable to you also personally. When you rise against odds, then the world comes to you with garlands, right? So USA came back to us in 2007-8 under Dr. Manmohan Singh. They signed a civil nuclear waiver between India and US, which meant that all the countries under missile technology control regime, under Australia group, right, Wassenaar arrangement, these are the nuclear waivers or missile technology waivers. India was given all these type of waivers, right, for the reason that we were rising economically. And the other reason was America wanted to bag these contracts from India. America's companies like Westinghouse, they are still on the verge of filing bankruptcy. 70,000, 80,000 crore rupees is the cost of one nuclear reactor, which they wanted to sell to India. Now, how would they be able to sell? How would American companies be able to sell this to India when America has imposed sanctions, or America says that India is not signing nuclear non-proliferation treaty. That is why India was given a waiver that even if India has not signed nuclear non-proliferation treaty, still American companies and companies of France, Russia, other countries, Japan also, they can sell these nuclear reactors to India despite India having not signed nuclear non-proliferation treaty, comprehensive test ban treaty. This is called nuclear waiver by America. Why did America give this? Because America wanted its companies, nuclear reactor companies, to see the revival of business by getting orders worth rupees 70,000 crores for one reactor. European Union also was facing this kind of a problem. European Union countries, their companies like Arriva of France, they were not able to sell nuclear reactors. India got the waiver, India acted very smart. Then there is a problem with, what is the problem here? There is a problem that if any country has, civil nuclear liability law, if any company installs a nuclear reactor, it runs the risk of some nuclear disaster, as happened in March 2012, March 2011 in Japan, Fukushima nuclear disaster, because of which Japanese economy for another 5-6 years lost the GDP of 3 to 4% of Japanese economy. Such was the nuclear disaster triggered by a tsunami in March 2011. 12th of March 2011 it was. I remember my days when I was also preparing. So the dates etc. are not important, but the incident was important. Okay, so what happened? After this, many countries, many companies, they saw a cancellation of the orders that were already placed for nuclear reactors. It was 2011. Then India revised its civil nuclear liability law, which said that if the nuclear disaster happens, the India's Nuclear Power Corporation of India Limited, which will operate these nuclear reactors, if in case there is a defect in the supply, there is a defect in the nuclear equipment, then Nuclear Power Corporation of India Limited can recover the damages at a later stage from the companies of USA like Westinghouse. USA did not want this. Why would USA want to pay tens of thousands of crore rupees? Indian opposition, then that time it was BJP in opposition, NDA. So those BJP NDA allies, they said that we have already faced Bhopal gas tragedy and we are still not able to recover out of it. Nobody has even cleared the the chemical waste that was lying around the site. So we don't want that kind of a saga to be repeated for India, right? This time or in the future in the form of any nuclear disaster whatsoever. So suppliers should be made to pitch in, suppliers would have to pitch in if any such disaster happens. US companies opted out of the sites that India had allotted to them. Jaitapur site, then France was also given some site. It was only Russia which sold the nuclear reactor to us that is now operational at Kudankulam before India's civil nuclear liability law, which imposed an unlimited liability on the companies, on the suppliers, if in case the defect is found in any kind of equipment supplied by the company selling the reactor to India's Nuclear Power Corporation of India Limited. You got this point? Anybody selling reactor to us, defected reactor to us, will not be allowed to go scot-free. We will punish them so that any re-happening of Bhopal gas tragedy type incident in India shall be punishable with the economic fine. With the fine to the extent that anybody should not dare to sell anything inferior to India. Now, Manmohan Singh very smartly played it. He signed the nuclear liability law. He signed the nuclear waiver agreement with America, which brought America and India closer together to the disadvantage of China. But we did not buy even a single costly nuclear reactor from the US. We bought it from Russia because Russia supplied it from between 2010 when the India-USA civil nuclear waiver came into force and 2012. So Russia was able to play smart thanks to Indian government's, you can say, prerogative to Russia, priority to Russia, that in 2010-12 the deal with Russia-India was signed, concluded already, but the deal between US companies and India did not conclude. Now what does civil nuclear liability of law of India say? It says that 500 crore rupees or 1500 crore rupees would be pitched in immediately by the operator for giving the compensation, for recovery from the damages if in case any nuclear disaster happens. But the operator, Nuclear Power Corporation of India Limited, would have the right to take recourse of recovery of damages from the supplier. Now the same opposition, BJP, NDA, is saying that we will revisit India's Civil Nuclear Liability Act and Atomic Energy Act, so that this nuclear liability law could be diluted to the extent that American companies and French companies which want to sell nuclear reactors to India do not have to pay too much of damages. How this law would be revised, how much of the dilution of liability of the supplier would be there, is not yet out in the public domain yet. But our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, on 10th of February, that is today, he is reaching the US, even as Indians are being deported like animals in the cargo plane of US Army with their hands shackled. We are going to unshackle our nuclear liability law. We are going to dilute it because our domestic agenda also requires this to happen. India's energy mix is such that only 2%, around 6,700 megawatts of energy is coming from nuclear nuclear power, right? If we want to achieve the target of clean energy by 2047, we need to increase this percentage of nuclear source of energy. We have to increase this. This is the domestic compulsion also. That is why we are diluting this law now. Okay, so these are the targets. India needs at least 100 gigawatt of nuclear energy by 2047 and an outlay of 20,000 crore rupees for the development of 5 small modular reactors. Now these small modular reactors are in vogue, are in fashion. We had installed 1000 megawatt Kudankulam nuclear reactor in Tamil Nadu. 1000 megawatt is too much. I mean, too big for if it is seen from the light of any nuclear disaster. So now we are going for small modular reactors which will be of the capacity of 300 to 400 megawatts. So that if in case any disaster happens, the populous country like India does not face much of the damages. Right? So I gave you the whole context of this issue, how we started from 2007-8 in the form of civil nuclear waiver deal with the US, how that gave us an advantage in the Committee of World's Nations, in the fraternity, US, Japan, China. We were able to become a part of that military league, that defense league, or you can say the nuclear weapons league. Just a minute. Actually, the backend guy is taking the access. Maybe there is some problem. Okay. Which strategically, nuclear waiver deal was very important. But commercially, India did not spend precious dollars on buying costly nuclear reactors from the US and the French companies. Okay, so this was the tactical move by India. Now, these are the targets. What are small modular reactors? Why are we buying them? I've given you the reason for that also. Now, coming to another interesting area, how the budget has curtailed the urban funds for the urban development. Once a star campaign, once a star program, or you can say the flagship program of the government of India, Smart Cities Mission, hasn't got any rise in the funding, any uptick in the funding. Smart cities are a thing of, I've always believed that they could have been relegated to a later stage. What we need is the foundational infrastructure in the cities of India, which is what is lacking in India. Foundational infrastructure basically means that we need better sewerage lines, the underground pipelines that are there. We need better management of the wire lines that are hanging in the air. So those issues needed to be dealt with on the priority basis rather than talking big about the smart things, Internet of Things to be applied to cities in India. Well, coming back to the specifics here of the article, I've given you the context. What was the allocation for urban India? 96,777 crores. But a new pattern is emerging in the budgetary allocations, that the money is allocated to get the media attention, to get the positive media image for the government. But that money is not being spent. Okay, so money is not being spent. That means ultimately there is a reduction in the budget for urban development or for education ministry or for Manrega also. Now this article talks overall about what government should have done in the arena of urban development. Let's quickly deal with it. Factoring in the modest inflation rate, now see here 96,777 crore rupees have been allocated, which is higher than the last year's budget proposal. 2024-2025 budget proposed 82,000. But if you add 10% inflation, 10% inflation to it, so how much would it be? Around 90,000. Now here there is actually a fall in the outlay. It is not an increase. On the face of it, prima facie, it seems to be an increase, but it is not. Why? The revised estimates which are presented for 2024 along with the budget 2025-2026, they say that only 63,700 crore rupees approximately have been spent. 63,000 crore rupees will be spent by March 2025. That means money allocated 82,000 crores. What will be spent? 62,000 crore rupees. Where will the rest of the money go? Rest of the money will go to the Consolidated Fund of India again, out of which it is being proposed that 96,000 crore rupees will be allocated. Now, a saving of 20,000 crore rupees, if you put 82,000 crores here that were allocated in the previous year, okay, so a saving of approximately 19,000 crore rupees is going, out of which this money is being allocated. Money has been saved this year. It is not saving. It is actually deliberate act of not spending the money and then getting it back into the Consolidated Fund of India and spending again. It's like your father telling you that he will give you 500 rupees every day. In the evening, he asks you, how much have you spent? You say, I have spent only 280 rupees. He says, okay, you've spent 280 rupees. I will take this 220 rupees back and will give you another 500 rupees. So has he actually given you 500 rupees? No, he's actually given you only 280 rupees again, right? So the previous allocation goes back to the Consolidated Fund of India. This is the problem. This is the new pattern that we are observing these days in the budget. Money is allocated, money is not being spent. Why? We have a huge machinery, independent evaluation officers of Niti Aayog. Okay, so we have Indian Economic Service officers there in the field. We have the entire budget and spending machinery. Why money is not being spent then? Because funds are not released on time. If the funds would not be released on time, how would they be spent? This is how the schemes are seeing a slow death. Manrega is also included in this league of how the funds are being choked for the various crucial schemes. Okay. Now, government has its own compulsions. We are not criticizing the government. Government has to manage fiscal deficit. Government has to manage the India's credit rating by Moody's, whose sometimes their mood gets off and they give a poor rating to India. So thereby making India a poor investment destination. So we have to manage fiscal deficit, revenue deficit, etc., etc. Now coming here, where the shortfall is noted, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban had an allocation of 30,170 crores. Okay, but saw a drastic cut in the reduction in the revised estimates to just 13,670 crores. Again here, 30,000 crore rupees allocated for Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban, out of which 13,000 crore rupees would be spent by March. That means a saving of 17,000 crore rupees. What is Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana? You know about it. Okay, so it seeks to give the homeless people in India, people who do not have their own houses, as far as I remember, the data was 18.78 million. Okay, these many people in India do not have their own houses. Now, houses would have been provided to 78, you can say 0.78, 78 lakh people, or maximum 1.78 million people. 17 million people in India, rural, urban included, still do not have their own houses. Now, what does this Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana say? And what does the curtailment of funding, cutting in the funding, or not spending the money tell us about the saga of our India's growth? Look here, you see the slum areas. We are going to talk about these four components first of all of Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana: in situ slum redevelopment. Then second, credit linked subsidy scheme, which means that if anybody wants to build their own pakka house, cemented house, they can borrow money at 7% or 6.75 or 7.5% rate of interest from private banks or public sector banks, SBI or HDFC or ICICI, whatever bank they like. The credit subvention will be there, money will be given to the bank, the difference between the interest rate will be given to the bank by the government. Here, in situ slum redevelopment means that here is a kacha, let's assume, let me add a slide also quickly. Just a minute. See, here is a slum area. Okay, Juggi Jhopdi, etc. The way you see it in the Nayak movie, Anil Kapoor, okay, he goes as a CM like Kejriwal, and he says that all these slums would be redeveloped. So what is this? Is the government land which is encroached upon by the poor people. Government land is there. Now in situ redevelopment means that this government land would be vacated and these people would not be told to go anywhere, because otherwise what will happen? Slum will be evicted from here, slum will again be mushrooming at some other place in the city. If this is city, this was the west side of city, if these people are not given the houses, they will come up in the north. These slums and hutments will come up in the north, east or west or south of the city. So in JNNURM, Jawaharlal Nehru National Urban Renewal Mission, government thought that we need to deal with this problem of slums once and for all. How to deal with it? Government did this thing that these slums would be evacuated, okay, and in their place, LIG, lower income group people, MIG, middle income group people, house flat would be for 25 lakh rupees, this will be for 45 lakh rupees, HIG, 4 BHK, 4 bedroom houses will be sold for 70 to 80 lakh rupees, and the money will be generated, a portion of that money will be spent on EWS houses, economically weaker section houses, from this money only Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana is running. Okay. In situ means if these people are having their means of livelihood, these maids are working, they are dependent on the city, let's say sector 32 of Chandigarh. Okay, they are earning their livelihood by acting as maids, acting as sweepers, acting as all these petty jobs they do. Okay, if they are evacuated, if they are rehabilitated ex situ means not at the same site, then they will lose their livelihood. That is why the in situ rehabilitation was thought about, because government will then not have to deal with the problems of unemployment. Not only unemployment, if these people are evicted like the unwanted people, then the crimes like chain snatching, policing will become a problem. Chain snatching, car theft, etc., murders, rapes, crime rate will go up. That is why it was thought better this way, that these people should be rehabilitated in situ in the same place where they are residing, because they are working as a scrap vendor, tire puncher, cobbler, barber, etc. So let's not evict them. This was the policy. Now, funding cut for Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana takes India away from Smart Cities Mission, Atal Mission for Rejuvenation of Towns, okay, Amrit Mission we are talking about, urban towns. Now, this is what I have explained you today. My approach in this news analysis would not be just to read out the news. My endeavor would be to give you the whole context of it, to analyze it in a manner that you get to see where the scheme is fitting in. All right, now 56% less than the allocated amount. While Swachh Bharat Mission Urban retains the same outlay at 5,000 crore rupees, but revised estimates indicate that only 2,150 crore rupees have been spent. That means here also money allocated but not spent. This is the new culture of budgeting that we are in, that money is allocated but it is not spent. Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana centrally sponsored scheme component saw a 30% cut. Okay, 60-40 again is the sharing pattern. Now I ask you some questions over here. When was the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana started? Okay, when was it started and under which ministry does it come? Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana comes under which ministry? Quickly, is it Ministry of Panchayati Raj, Ministry of Urban Affairs, or what? Okay, now how the urban funding for urban development has been curtailed in budget 2025-2026. This overall news clipping talks about the same issue. Okay, now another peculiar phenomena is shortage of or cutting of funds for the urban local bodies. Urban local bodies, we always say that, have been grappling with the problems of funds, functions and functionaries. Now, funds problem has got aggravated with the advent of GST. You see this huge queue of trucks at the outskirts of every city. You see toll barrier, which is called as octroi barrier. Okay, barrier sees a lineup of trucks. Earlier, it used to be visible. After the advent of GST, octroi, which was an important source of revenue for the urban local bodies, has been abolished. Own source of funding for the urban local bodies, municipalities, has been abolished. Now they are even more dependent on the state governments. And okay, many of you are answering. So what is the funding for, what is the ministry for Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Rural? Please answer. Is it MORD, or is it Ministry of Panchayati Raj, or is it Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation? Which ministry is implementing Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Rural? Second question, as a side question, which is the ministry which is implementing Amrut Mission, Atal Mission for Rejuvenation of Urban Towns? Please answer this. Okay, now here you've seen this pattern, shortage of urban funds. Octroi, I've incorporated this image so as to give you an idea. Whenever these trucks would enter the city jurisdiction using the road of the city, these trucks would have to pay the duty at a certain percentage. They were required to pay earlier, but with the advent of GST, this important source of revenue for the local bodies has also been centralized through the e-way bills, through the GST. Now they have deprived of another source of funding. Urban local bodies need to be empowered in order for us to see the real empowerment of urban local bodies, the real implementation of Swachh Bharat Mission. Prime Minister announcing the program at the central level may not see the actual implementation of the program at the ground level until and unless the urban local bodies have the funds. Okay, so a key revenue source for cities and non-compensation of the lost revenue through the central devolution. So center deprived them of the important source. With the advent of GST, octroi got abolished. This source got abolished. GST did not devolve enough money to compensate for the loss of octroi, an important source of revenue for urban local bodies. Okay, with the introduction of GST, the source of revenue of urban local bodies fell by 21%. This is the data you can use in your answers also while writing any answer on urban local bodies. This is not as important for mains, right? But funds, functions and functionaries, these problems have been evergreen. Okay, you must have seen in the series Panchayat, there on Amazon Prime. These things are very well picturized in that. Now, in situ rehabilitation we have talked about. Are we missing out? Now, another problem is skewed focus of centrally sponsored schemes. Centrally sponsored schemes are betting on, they are investing more money on big ticket investment projects like infrastructure projects like metro rail, which is a mass rapid transit system. But what is the problem with mass rapid transit systems like metro? They do not provide last mile connectivity. If I get down from Delhi metro, I have to board an e-rickshaw, or I have to wait for Uber if my place of residence is a bit away from the metro station. Even though metro connectivity has been superb, but last mile connectivity, the ugly experience of getting down, the good experience is that we are getting down from an AC train which is flying at a very fast rate. The ugly experience is the moment we get down, we have to be seated, we have to adjust with 6 people in an e-rickshaw. right, which is not safe also. So this betting on Ministry of Urban Affairs, okay, giving more money for metro rail type projects in 2024-2025, it was 21,335 crore rupees. Okay, this is a kind of peanuts. One metro rail project is for 40,000, 50,000 crore rupees, and you are allocating for the whole of the country in 2024-2025 just 21,000 crore rupees. Now, this is also not enough. Major share of urban development is diverted towards capital intensive infrastructure projects, whereas the writer says need of the hour is to prioritize metro rails over comprehensive urban mobility. I mean, what the government is doing is government is prioritizing metro rail over comprehensive urban mobility. What we need is a comprehensive urban mobility. We have been talking about the monorails also, which can go to the every nook and corner, every small street also. The monorails can travel, but the problem is it is again very capital intensive. Then another point here is government needs to do something about urban employment. An idea that I always give is, why not talk about Manyuga, MGNUGA, even though Mr. Modi is already disturbed by Manrega, okay, but Mahatma Gandhi National Urban Employment Guarantee Program, it can help in multiple ways. The septic tanks, the manual scavenging problem, all these things, and the Swachh Bharat mission, most importantly. Okay, so if these public toilets have to be maintained well, manual scavenging needs to be eradicated, Manyuga can come in handy. The scrap vendors, all these people who are already working in the arena of urban cleanliness, urban maintenance can be incorporated. If this kind of a reform can be brought about, urban employment generation will take place for the lowly jobs. In the era of AI, where we have robots cleaning the streets, where we have artificial intelligence enabled machines cleaning the streets, a populous country like India can afford to bet on, or can at least afford to experiment for 2 to 5 years with this Manyuga kind of a program, right? So this is there. Urban thefts, urban problems, urban not so proper implementation of Swachh Bharat mission can be tackled with the help of Manyuga kind of a program. So this is there. Social and economic equity needs to be taken care of. If there would be no social and economic equity, then as Karl Marx said, there will be a social revolution, or we see it in India happening in the form of petty crime rate increase as per National Crime Records Bureau data. Chain snatching, mobile phone snatching, these crimes are flooding the police data. Now, coming here, this is the mains question. You can have a look at it. Union Cabinet approves rupees 8,800 crore to boost Skill India program. Again, focus is on employment generation, and we thank government for that they are investing a lot in the Skill India. Okay. Now, Skill India program till 2026, Cabinet has approved it with an outlay of 8,800 crore rupees from the period 2022, 2023 to 25-26. That means it is for this year. Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana 4.0 has come in. Pradhan Mantri National Apprenticeship Promotion Scheme and Jan Shikshan Sansthan Scheme. These three schemes are now combined under the composite central sector scheme. Now it is going to be a central sector scheme. Okay, sector schemes are those. Please answer, what are the central sector schemes? I have many a times told you the under the SIP. So this is Skill India program, subsuming or combining these three programs: Kaushal Vikas Yojana, Pradhan Mantri National Apprenticeship Program, and lastly Jan Shikshan Sansthan. So this is there. Now, Pradhan Mantri, this 4.0 outlay of 6,000 crore rupees to keep pace with evolving industry demands and advent of new technologies. It will provide 400 new courses on artificial intelligence, then 5G technology, cyber security, green hydrogen, and drone technology. Drone based delivery, etc. All these things will be a thing of the future. So enabling people to know about drone technology, how to repair it, how to use it to their advantage. Okay, so this will be the in the ambit of this particular program, Skill India program. Now, it puts emphasis on international mobility, ensuring Indian workers are equipped with globally recognized skills. We see a lot of Indians working in the Gulf countries, UAE, petroleum, petrochemical industries. But are we future ready as a workforce? We need to train our people so that they have those skills that are required internationally. They are not rejected, let alone USA, they are not rejected in the West Asian oil rich countries or Ukraine or anywhere Indians are working. Okay, so this is one of the objectives you need to memorize for your prelims also, international mobility through Skill India program. So this is the snapshot kind of a thing. You can take a quick screenshot of it for your own convenience. So guys, I mean for making notes, etc. This was all in today's news analysis. See you again in the next class tomorrow, Tuesday. Today there wasn't much in the news analysis in the Hindu newspaper or Indian Express. Still, we tried our best to incorporate and to cover the backgrounder information. Even though we've covered less number of articles, but we've covered them holistically to manage the, I would say, lesser news articles that were there in the newspaper today. Keep answering all these questions, keep making notes of these questions, and for PDF you can download, you can subscribe to my Telegram channel, the link of which is given in the description box of this particular session. Thank you. Bye bye. Have a good day, guys. Thank you.